Ms. Ajala Mary Shaji, Ms. Sri Lakshmi S, Ms. Haripriya K, Ms. Varsha Babu, and Mr. Ragil S. Over to them.
Audible ano?
Yes, audible.
Share option.
Nehit.
Is sir audible alle?
Yes, audible.
Okay. Thank you, Rekuma, for the wonderful introduction. So, Nirmala Sitharaman, Union Minister for Finance, presented in the Union Budget 2022-23 in the Parliament on February 1st, 2022. Highlights of the Union Budget 2022 is India's economic growth in the current year is estimated to be 9.2%, highest among all large economies. The overall sharp rebound and recovery of the economy from the adverse effect of the pandemic is reflective of our country's strong resilience. This was stated by Union Minister for Finance and Corporate Affairs Nirmala Sitharaman while presenting in the Union Budget in Parliament. Good evening, all of you. This is Achilles from first semester Mcom Rural Management. Here, we are going to present the budget analysis 2022-23 and which in the topics allotted to us. Rural development presented by Ajila Miri Shaji, micro, small and medium enterprises presented by Sri Lakshmi S, poverty affiliation presented by Varsha Babu, and finally unorganized sector presented by Haripriya K. Before start our presentation, we are thanking you for the wonderful opportunity to participate in the online presentation. Now, we are moving to our presentation. Firstly, I would like to welcome Ajila Mary Shaji for the first presentation on the topic rural development. Over to you, Ajila. I wish all the very best.
Thank you, Akhil. So, moving on to my topic, we will be discussing here about the impact of budget in the rural development sector. So, Ministry of Rural Development is a branch of Government of India which is entrusted with the task of accelerating the socio-economic development of rural India. It mainly focuses on the poverty reduction and provision of basic services, employment generation, rural infrastructure and habitation development, health, education, and piped drinking water. On to my next slide. Here, I'm going to talk about the budget highlights on rural development 2023. So, if you look into the agriculture sector, various schemes has been approved and allocated in this union budget, such as Pradhana Mantri Kisan Samvad Yojana, creation of modern infrastructure with an efficient supply chain management from farm gate to the retail outlet, and it has been allocated with 900 crores up from the revised estimate of 791 crores. Second, PM Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana. It's a government scheme through which all small and marginal farmers will get up to 6,000 per year as a minimum income support. Allocation of fund increased to 68,000 crore from 67,500 crores. Next, Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana. It's an umbrella scheme for ensuring holistic development of agriculture and allied services, and it has been allocated with 10,433 crores. To the next slide. Here, I'm going to say about few other points and schemes coming under the agriculture sector. First is that funds allocated for the farmers crop insurance scheme has been reduced from 15,989 crores to 15,500 crores. Urea subsidy has been reduced from 75,930 crores to 63,222 crores. Fund allocated for the livestock health and disease control programs have been increased to 1,470 crores to the 2,000 crores. And it gave more emphasis on chemical-free natural farming. use of Kisan drones for crop assessment, land records, spraying of insecticides and nutrients are expected to drive a wave of technology in agriculture sector. Digitalization of land records, that is, a completely paperless e-bill system will be launched by the ministry for the procurement and assessment of crops. Natural farming will be promoted along the Ganga River corridor. Financial support will be provided to the farmers to take up the agroforestry. And finally, finance startup will be initiated as an incentive to aid the rural enterprises. To the next slide. Here, rural livelihood. MGNRIGP fund slashed. MGNRIGP, that is the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Development Guarantee Program, which is a vital source of employment in the rural area, has been cut down by 25.52%. It has been allotted with 73,000 crores for the financial year 22-23, while the revised estimate for the program in the last union budget was 98,000 crores. It has been a noticeable factor that in the past 2 years of the pandemic, MGNRIGP has been the sole source of employment and livelihood to a large chunk of rural population. And right to work activities have been demanding a huge rise in the budget for the program. Next, rural drinking water. There has been a jump in the allocation of funds under the Jal Jeevan Mission or the National Rural Drinking Water Mission. 60,000 crores has been allocated to the Har Ghar Jal scheme by the Indian government for the financial year 2022-23. It has been introduced with the estimation of covering 12.5 crore households by the coming financial year, of which under this scheme, 8.7 crore households have already been beneficiaries. Next, rural education. The Union Finance Minister acknowledged that due to the COVID-19 pandemic induced closure of schools, children, particularly in the rural areas and those from the SC/ST and other weaker sections, have lost almost 2 years of formal education. And to cover the situation, one class, one TV channel program of PM E-Vidya scheme have been introduced, in which supplementary education in regional language for classes 1 to 12 will be provided. On to my next slide. Rural roads and irrigation. Allocation of Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana have been increased to 19 crores from 14 crores. Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchan Yojana have been allocated 12,954 crores from 12,706 crores. Swachh Bharat Mission has received an allocation of 7,192 crores from 9,994 crores. Next, banking services in post office. The post offices in the country will now be brought under the coverage of core banking. This should help rural citizens who prefer the using of service in the post office. And now it will be possible to transfer money from post office account to other bank accounts. In 2022, 10% of 1.5 lakh post officers will come on the core banking system, enabling financial inclusion and access to accounts. To the next slide. All villages have optical fibres by 2025. The contracts for laying optical fibres in all villages, including the remote areas, will be awarded under the BharatNet project through public-private partnership. And the completion of this project is expected in 2025. So this is all about my topic, and I'm handovering the section to my partner. Over to you, Sri Lakshmi. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Moving on to my topic, micro, small and medium enterprises. The Union Budget for 2022-23 has announced several measures for the micro, small and medium enterprises. Our vibrant MSMEs form the backbone of our economy, contributing 30% of our GDP and 50% of our exports. They employ more than 12 crore people in the country and create new jobs every year. MSMEs undoubtedly play a huge role in generating prosperity for any nation. It is vital that this sector is nurtured and supported by the government, especially during these difficult times. While MSMEs have always had some burning issues in India, the year that went by was a roller coaster ride that still offered a ray of hope. Union Budget 2022 scheduled on February 1 could be the right time to build on this hope by ushering in the changes required to help MSMEs. Move on to my next slide. Then we are going to 2022-23 budget highlights on MSMEs. First one, Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme. It was launched by Government of India as a special scheme in view of COVID-19 crisis. to provide 100% guarantee coverage to banks and NBFCs to enable them to extended emergency credit facilities to business enterprises or MSMEs to meet their additional term loan or additional working capital requirements. In this budget, the emergency credit line guarantee scheme has extended to March 2023. Loan guarantee amount under ECLGS scheme has been increased to rupees 50,000 crore to total cover of rupees 5 lakh crore, and this scheme has provided much needed additional credit to more than 130 lakh MSMEs. This has helped them mitigate the diverse impact of the pandemic. And the second one is agricultural and agri-tech startups. Agri-tech or agriculture technology is the term referring to the use of technology innovation in agriculture to increase its yield, efficiency, and profitability. In this budget, several allocations were made for agricultural startups. A fund with blended capital raised under co-investment model facilitated through NABARD to finance startups in agriculture and rural enterprises for farm produce value chain. More assistance will be given to agriculture startups. Startups will be promoted for Drone Shakti. Union Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in her budget announced the Drone Shakti initiative to promote drone use in the country and provide a major boost to the sector. Drone Shakti is designed to boost local manufacturing and job creation. Over to my next slide. Digital banking on startups. The announcement of a special scheme to promote digital banking is also helpful for startups in this field. 75 digital banking units will be set up in the country. Digital Desh e-payment will be launched for the skill development of youth. During the announcement of Union Budget for the year 2022-23, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman mentioned the launch of an e-portal for a digital ecosystem for skilling and livelihood. Then, interlinking of Udyam, Ishram, NCS and SC. Their scope will be widened. They will now perform as portals with live organic databases, providing G2C, B2C and B2B services. These services will relate to credit facilitation, skilling and recruitment with aim to further formalize the economy and enhance entrepreneurial opportunities for all. The relevant things in this budget are duty on umbrellas is being raised to 20%. Custom duty exemption given to steel scrap last year is being extended for another year to provide relief to MSME secondary steel producers. 2 lakh crore granted to MSME sector. A new scheme for 6,000 crore for rating MSMEs will be implemented within 5 years. Government does not consider the need including moratorium on MSME loan. Over to my next slide. Then comparison on allocation between 21-22 and 22-23 budget. First one, increase in budgetary allocation for MSMEs from the last year's 15,699.65 crore to 21,422 crore, now up by 26.77%. Second one, revised allocation of rupees 1,232.32 from 905.04 for the development of Khadi village and power industries in 21-22, and now it is 1,168.03 crore. In technology upgradation and quality certification, the total outlay has been slashed from last year's rupees 330.31 crore to 80.72 crore, down by 75.6%. For the credit-linked capital subsidy and technology scheme, which earlier had an allocation of 315.31 crore, has not secured any amount this time. 5. MSME champion scheme that had a nil allocation earlier has got 60.72 now. PMEGP, a flagship program of the government, has seen a big increase from rupees 12,499.70 crore to 17,600.12 crore, up by 29%. The allocation for the interest subvention scheme for the incremental credit to MSMEs had been drastically slashed from rupees 199.66 crore to 0.04 crore. Distressed asset fund now has been given a provision of just rupees 100 crore, significant reduction from 300 crore earlier. Hike of 15,000 crore from 10,000 crore on ECLG scheme. Then allocation on entrepreneurship and skill development scheme increased to 717.99 crore from 570.93 crore, up by 20.48%. Increase in allocation for Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Rural Industrialization, 7.5 crore to 10.41 crore, and Promotional Service Institution and Program, 176.7 crore to 180.82 crore. Then hiked the allocation for the total infrastructure development program from rupees 1,107.63 to rupees 1,596.03 crore. Then last one, the outlay for research evaluation studies is also up from 175.64 crore to 157 crore. And this is all about my topic. I hand over the session to Varsha Babu for deal with poverty alleviation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sri Lakshmi. Moving on to my topic, poverty alleviation. Poverty reduction or poverty alleviation is a set of measures, both economic and humanitarian, that are intended to permanently lift people out of poverty. In developing nation like India, poverty must be eradicated or alleviated for economic and social development. When we're discussing about the need for poverty alleviation in India, according to World Poverty Clock, the number of people who are living in poverty is 97.69 crore, or roughly 6% of the total population. Poverty acts as a hindrance to development of a healthy society, and it also impacts on the educational and social welfare. From these points, we can understand that there are so many people who suffer extreme poverty. So there must be some schemes or programs or policies to eradicate the poverty to make our nation in its complete prosperity. Moving on to next slide. Now we are discussing about the contribution of Union Budget 2022-23 in poverty alleviation. Actually, there is no specific mention of poverty reduction or eradication programs in 2022-23. We already have some poverty alleviation programs that are Pradhan Mantri Rozgar Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana, etc. But in this Union Budget, there is no allocation for these programs also. But allocation of 40,000 crores to Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, high-level committee for urban planning, launching of nationwide digital health ecosystem open infrastructure, extension of ECLGS till March 2023, doubling of farmers' income. By providing such funds to these schemes, we can assume that it will help the path of poverty alleviation. So these are the things that talking about poverty alleviation 2022-23 in Union Budget. Now I hand over the space to Haripriya. Thank you.
ആരെങ്കിലും വല്ല പ്രോമിസും കൊടുത്തോ?
Thank you, Varsha. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Here my portion is unorganized sector. Let me define what unorganized sector is. Unorganized sector is broadly characterized as consisting of units engaged in the production of goods or services with the primary objective of generating employment and incomes to the persons concerned. They include toddy tappers, attached agricultural laborers, bonded laborers, contract and casual laborers, fishermen, drivers, construction workers, etc. More than 82% of the workforce in India is employed in the unorganized sector, and they contribute major portion of our GDP. Over to my next slide. So let's look what they needed in 2022-23 budget. So the following are the key things that the unorganized sector expected in budget: social protection to informal workers, expanding microcredit to informal employers, widening the availability and lowering the cost of gold loans. Here, these are the things that they needed in the budget. But over to my next slide. Let's look what they got. There is no specific allocation of any amount to unorganized sector in the budget 2022-23. This is the fact that there is no specific allocation for the unorganized sector. No programs or no schemes were introduced, or no specific allocation is made. Over to my next slide. Let's have a look to the schemes that are now available for the unorganized sector. E-Shram. centralized database of unorganized workers serial with other that is introduced in 2019. The other one country, one registration scheme, ease of living and doing business, which is introduced in this budget. And the other one is financial incentives for agricultural startups in order to promote self-employment. Besides the e-strom, the other two are introduced in this budget, but we have to see in the coming days how this is going to help the unorganized sector. Over to my next slide. I would like to give a recap on what my friends have told you earlier. So the introduction session handled by Akhil, and the next session uh, handled by Ajla Meri Shaji about rural development. In that session, she described the budget to various sectors like agriculture, rural livelihood, rural drinking water, rural education, roads and irrigation, banking services. In that session, the main point to note is all villages will have optical fibres by 2025. And the next session handled by Sri Lakshmi S on micro, small and medium enterprises. In that session, she dealt with emergency credit line guarantee scheme and agriculture and agri-tech startups in which drone Shakti is a noted point and digital banking in rural areas and its analysis. And the next session, poverty alleviation and the other topic, unorganized sector, where there is no specific allocation of fund and all. So this is the recap of what we have discussed till now. And over to my next slide. So let's discuss what are the key elements to discuss in this budget. The first one is lack of specific allocation for unorganized sector and poverty alleviation. That we already have discussed this. There is no allocation, no specific allocation for unorganized sector, and no new programs or schemes for poverty alleviation. And the next point is reduction in allocation of Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program fund. The funds are drastically reduced. Around 25% of the fund is reduced. And the next is the credit linked capital subsidy and technology scheme, which earlier had an allocation of 315.31 crore, had not secured any amount in this time. So these 3 points must be discussed in detail in case of 2022-23 budget. And I would like to use this time to thank you all. Thank you, Kerala University Commerce Department, Head of Department Simon Sir, for giving us an opportunity to present this paper, and Director of Kerala University Research and Study Center, Ananduraj Sir and Elizabeth Ma'am, who supported us to create the presentation. Once again, thank you all, and I'm concluding my slides.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. Akhil for the introduction, Ajila, Sri Lakshmi, Artha, and Haripriya for your beautiful presentation as well as a recapping of those points. Okay. So now we'll quickly move on to the last, last group for the day, and I'll give my summative response at the end.
Yes, sir. So now